Could theoretically be live. Let me go to my page and make sure. And if we are, then we can say hello to everybody. Oh, we are. Yay. I think we are actually live. Hello, everybody.
301. Hello, comment everybody. Pirko.
Oh, I can hear you, Erica. Hello. Okay. Hi, everyone. Now we are here and we are live. Thank you for coming today to Sunday Sessions. This is a different special edition to celebrate the fact that Ramped and Lachi Music released, Ramped Records and Lachi Music released a really amazing track just last week, and we really want to share about it. So I'm going to have Lachi and James Ian, who is also one of the artists on the track, and then I was the third piece of the singing puzzle. I'm going to have Lachi first introduce herself, and then James, because it would be great to kind of have people get to know who you are if they haven't tuned in before. So, Lachi, tell me a little about yourself.
Hey, my name is Lachi, she, her. I'm a Black woman with cornrows and I identify as blind. I am a touring, recording, and performing artist. I am a personality and I am a disability culture ambassador, inclusion activist, whatever you want to call it. And I am also the founder and president of Ramped Records. There's just Ramped. In general, recording artists and music professionals with disabilities, which houses Ramped Records, which put out Lift Me Up. And then lastly, I work on different boards, everything from the Grammys to the National Independent Venue Association to Songwriters of North America to really advocate for accessibility, disability, and identity pride in the music industry. Good old friends with Gaelynn. We met pre-pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means
Yeah.
you're really friends if you met pre-pandemic.
Yep, exactly. That's true.
Yes, and so I'm really excited to talk more about this song today. So thanks for this platform, Gaelynn.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So Lachi, I don't know when you sleep, how you sleep, but you are involved in so many things, but they're having an impact, and I bet this year especially is it starting to feel more real, like all this work is paying off to like change the culture, right?
Sure. It really is. I think that a lot of it is that it really does come through music. And like no shade on, the entertainment, Hollywood sort of acting vibe. Um, but I feel like people really start to see a culture and really feel the authenticity through music. I mean, at the end of the day, when you write a song about your experience, even if you're not writing about disability, it's still coming from like your mind and body as a person with a disability, as a person with neurodivergence, as a person with a chronic condition or whatever. But also, it just automatically makes whatever you're saying and doing authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And music is really a way that the soul expresses itself. And this is why people connect so much faster and further with music than they do with like watching a show.
Yeah.
Even though they're seeing an experience happen on television and really getting a story shown to them, when it comes to music, it's really not being shown to your eyes or your ears, it's being shown to your soul. And that's why the connectivity is so much quicker with culture. And so I strongly believe that music is going to be the place where we really start seeing this happen and this shift happen.
Yeah, no, I totally 100% agree. I think Genevieve just. Oh no, they're not there anymore. They're in the waiting room. Somebody maybe can tell her to join still if she wants to, and I can let her in right away. I was waiting. I didn't want to let her in the middle of your sentence. I'm sorry.
That's all good.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I agree. I think that music like bypasses your logical mind in a way that allows you to just kind of feel something rather than have to decide, oh, do I resonate with this or not? It's like such a immediate experience. James, how do you know? First of all, like, how do you know Lachi? What's your main story? I know you were on this show once before, not in front of a pool. That looks pretty amazing. But like, yeah, what's your connection with Lachi, and with what kind of art are you making these days? Yeah, introduce yourself, my friend.
Thank you, Gaelynn. Yes, I've been on Gaelynn's program before, which was great. Thank you again for having me. I'm James. I'm a black man. I'm wearing a a Chicago Bulls hat that's black, black sunglasses, a black T-shirt, and a silver chain with a wolf on the chain. And my disability is called spinal muscular atrophy. And I actually met Lachi, I believe we were doing like a research thing a couple of years back, and we just started kind of chatting. And then when Lachi was founding Ramped, I think she had known that I'm a musician and an actor. Feel slightly attacked by Lachi's statement about acting. Just kidding, but she's right though. So yeah, Lachi and I connected that way through like this research thing, and then we became friends. And she brought me in to be a part of the Lift Me Up, which I'm very, very grateful and thankful for. So yeah, do music, acting, and I feel like Lachi's right. I think in general, advocacy can really, really get propelled through art. We look at a lot of the social movements of our history, and art, music, that has been at the forefront, really driving change and I think inspiring people to act. So really big believer in that. Also want to give a shout out to my brother. I'm at my brother's house. This is his birthday. His name's Evan, so happy birthday to my brother. Love you. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, so that's that. And then Gaelynn, did you ask me a second question about I think I answered everything right. But,
yes, you did. You did great. And I will come back. I mean, we're gonna talk about a bunch of different things here today, but I wanted to introduce Genevieve. Do you want to turn on your camera and you can kind of introduce yourself, what you do for art in this space, and then also like how do you know Lachi and how did you get involved in Lift Me Up? We haven't really talked about Lift Me Up yet, but.
Or Judy.
Or Judy. We will get there. I don't know if she heard me. Genevieve, if you're there, turn on your camera.
So while Genevieve is getting set up, I forgot to brag about the shirt that I'm wearing.
Ooh.
I am wearing the Lift Me Up t-shirt that you guys need to all go to. I don't know where you would go to buy this. It's like lachimusic.com/liftmeup. And a lot of the proceeds from the merch are going right back into Ramped Records.
So cool.
And the cool thing about this shirt is that this is the album cover that Genevieve made. So Genevieve, this is supposed to be the segue into you introducing you.
I know. Maybe we did not succeed. Oh wait, yes, we did.
Hey,
Hi.
I'm sorry, I was moving around.
No, don't be sorry at all. Nice. I don't think I've actually met you yet, but nice to meet you. And I'm so glad you could join us today. Yeah. Introduce yourself and your art and kind of how you got involved with Lachi and the Lift Me Up campaign. It's pretty awesome that you did the art. It was beautiful.
Yeah, nice to meet you all. My name is Judy Ramos, and it's a really funny story how we met. So I'm new to independent living center in Chicago that I do art with. Well, I'm a visual artist. I do pop art with feminism and disability themes. And I was commissioned for a gala to paint a portrait of Lachi. And they presented her with the Lead Award. And she performed. She had a sniff of preview of Lift Me Up at the gala. And I presented the portrait of her. And yeah, it was a really great. She loved it and I was open to it because when I looked her up, instantly I was like, oh my god, I wouldn't pay her. She's so fierce. And I painted her with the afro. And it was just amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was such a really great commission to do. And after I presented it, Arthur and Lachi were like, oh, you should do the cover up and lift me up. And I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, I'm honored and it's been such an amazing experience. And I'm so grateful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, there it is. Thinking of Lachi.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to do that commission and that the art with I love the sign letters in there. I mean, I think it's just because sign is such a huge part of that song that I think it really fits in a beautiful way. So cool. Well, so here is the question. The reason, for people who don't know, the reason that Lift Me Up is in um, the world is because, unfortunately, in March we lost a friend to all of us, and an advocate for everyone worldwide, I think, with disabilities, Judy Heumann. And so people who aren't familiar with Judy, she was one of the very, first really prominent disability rights advocates. There's many, many. I mean, it's a long legacy. People have been working on this for probably as long as there have been disabled people needing, but she was able to kind of spearhead the Section 504 sit-in in the 70s, and then continued her work all the way through the ADA being signed and then beyond. She worked at the White House. She did a lot of things in her life, and she was a friend. James and Lachi and I all got to know her. Did you meet her, Genevieve? Jenny? I'm not sure. Possibly?
I did not, unfortunately.
Oh, well.
I learned about the clip camp.
Oh, yeah. Which,
and then
yeah.
I wish I did.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've met her spirit to many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, Judy was just a powerhouse and a person that I think not only moved disability rights forward, but continued uplifting the next generation, which is how, our experience with her as young people, younger-ish people, working on it today. And so, Lachi, I wanted to ask you, how did you first think of the song, and then, kind of walk me through what led you to that thought process? I remember the day we talked during her funeral, kind of just that feeling of more people need to celebrate her. And so can you kind of walk us through how you got the idea to make this really huge project that you successfully launched? It was so amazing. So I'm going to spotlight you.
Well, the first thing I'll say is I had no idea the impact it would have. I didn't realize it was going to go viral the day of release. I didn't realize it was going to have 500,000 Instagram views within 48 hours. I didn't realize Coldplay would support it, Google would support it, MTV would support it. That wasn't what it was originally made for. I mean, the fact that it is being so heavily supported is necessary, right? It showed that culture was ready for it. But in the beginning, and you and James and a couple of other folks were the first bundle of people I spoke to when Judy passed away in the first place. And I remember that conversation we had where we were both kind of just trying to figure out how to deal with it, grieve, and figure out what was even going on. And we were like, okay, we kind of ended our conversation going let's maybe write a poem or write a song or make sure we write down our thoughts and stuff like that. And I was having trouble figuring out how to cry, how to grieve, how to do anything. I was Judy was the type of person that I could call with any problem, at any hour. And I called her when I was frustrated with the Grammys, and then I also got to call her when we had wins at the Grammys. So it was just, she was really, really, I always wanted to have a female older than me kind of mentor that I could never really that never really got what I was trying to do, and she did. So it was tough when I lost her. So the song originally was me just trying to cope. Right. I was just let me write a song so that I can figure out what's going on. And the funny thing about it is that, she would call me up randomly to sing happy birthday to her friends or to just sing randomly. And it was kind of annoying. And then she would call me up whenever she was with James. I don't care how many times, I don't care what hour, if they were in LA and it was like 11 a.m. p.m. for them and like 2 a.m. for me. She would call, put it on speaker, and like make James and I talk to each other. Like we can't just call each other.
That is amazing. I love that so much.
Ridiculous. And so, it was really natural for James and I, we were just both super close to Judy, to really kind of commiserate and start writing this song together. Remotely, of course, because James is, I guess, in LA and I'm here in New York, and then we're both always touring and stuff. We start writing this song, and of course, it was just like, Gaelynn, of course. We were like, of course, Gaelynn is going to be a part of the song. And so we called you in. You were just like, what's going on? And we were like, this is what's going on. And then you're all of a sudden a part of it. We brought in April because she's a songwriter from Ramped. And everybody at Ramped is an established artist with a disability or an established music professional. And Kulik jumped on board, who is a mastering engineer, who's done some stuff with some really, really big projects, who is partially deaf. And everyone just kept jumping on and saying, yes, they want to be a part of this. And as it continued to like explode, this idea of a music video came together because it was like, this is bigger than just a song, right? At this point, it definitely needs to have a visual. Day Al Muhammad, who is a blind film director who had just left the White House, great friend of Judy's. And in fact, Judy had introduced Day and I, and we had done some stuff with PBS. She jumps on to co-direct. I also Kat Rubinus-Stevens, who does a lot of the Easter Seals film challenges. She jumped on board to also co-direct. And then we were like, okay, what do we want this to look like? And I was like, it'd be so cool if we can incorporate ASL, but instead of the ASL performers being in a box, let's have us in the box, or let's have us in the background, and let's have ASL in the front. And we sat down and we were like, how do we do this without it looking corny? Right? Because the last thing you want is like this Big Bird ass, Sesame Street ass. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. And we called in Amber. Amber brought in Otis and Nell, and God, was Nell a superstar. And it just continued to blow up. And the whole thing about Genevieve is great because we were actually thinking about it. Everything was starting to wrap up, and we were like, well, we don't even have like album art. And we were like, let's go try to find an artist. And then we were like, we just kept putting it off because, like, what are we going to do? Write on Craigslist? Like, hey, this right? We were starting to ask some folks, and people were like, oh, maybe. Then all of a sudden, I'm being presented by the Chicago Access Living for a Spirit Award. At the same time, Judy's getting a retroactive Lifetime Achievement Award, right? And I go there, Jorge's there, like a bunch of Judy disciples are there. And then, of course, I meet Genevieve Ramos for the first time with this freaking amazing painting. And it was just, Judy was like, her.
Oh.
So that's how that came along. And then it just kept continuing to grow from there. Allie, we couldn't find someone to do the audio description. And then it was just like, Judy says, ask Allie. Allie will do it. We ask Allie. Allie does it. Good thing we get her before the strike. And then, so it was just the most beautiful, amazing thing. And the fact that people like MTV, Coldplay, Google, and this like recent Hollywood Reporter article came out, those were all just after the fact. Those were all because of how beautiful this like organic impact campaign where the whole community was just getting involved and posting about Judy and counting down to the release. They were looking at this, they saw it, they saw our community activated, and they were like, this is beautiful. We in the mainstream want to be a part. And that's the whole history.
Thank you so much. That's why it resonates so much though, Lachi, is because you're right, it really was the community. And I think, and we kind of talked about this on our water cooler on Ramps, but like the idea of disabled people being the ones to create something that feels accessible to them with input. Obviously you want to get input and you don't want to assume that but it creates things that are creative in a way that we just don't see right now. And so like you're right, it's really authentic. It's really like welcoming to everybody who is taking it in different ways. Like, you know, having audio description and the ASL front and center. There's so many things about it that are just like organically accessible because of the people that created it are disabled. And I think that's a really cool thing to like recognize. Yeah. Well, so James, do you want to share a little bit about your experience with Judy and your experience making the song? Because I mean, this was, I could not believe we actually got it out in July. Like, I remember that phone call and you're like, I think we're going to do it probably out in July. And I was like, whoa, that's tight turnaround. And you did it, which is amazing. So, like, what was your experience with Judy? And then, James, how did you get involved and what was that like? We can talk about the behind the scenes a little bit.
For sure, yeah. So I met Judy. I did a panel 4 years ago, and it was actually at my alma mater, and so Judy was there, and it was the first time I met her. Like a few other people on there, and like we just connected instantly. Like I played some music and talked about disability and my experience, you know, on campus. And at the end of it, I was walking off the ramp or whatever, and Judy was like, kind of going to her spot, and she was like, "Come here, I want to stay in touch." And like when you come, because I'm from the DC area originally, and so she was like, "When you're back home, I want to hang out." And so she just like kissed me, and I was like, like right off the bat, I was like, I'm in love with this woman. And so
Yeah.
we've been really, really good friends. You know, like she knows my family and stuff. And so every time I
Oh,
go home for holidays, pretty much I would always see Judy. And then, like Lachi said, Judy would be in LA. We'd hang out. She was at my birthday dinner last year. Every time we were together, we would call Lachi, and just she was just a great mentor and knew, you know, all the things very, very well. But she was just also just like a really funny person. Like I used to just joke with her and kind of like try to get under her skin a little bit because I knew that she just liked that, and it was just kind of this is my personality. And she's just funny, so I would say things to just kind of like, you know, get a reaction and stuff. And like she'd always have her little smirk and stuff. And so um, when she passed, it was just I was just in complete shock. You know, I remember that
yeah.
day very, very vividly, and there was some back and forth as to her condition. And you know, so I was kind of all over the place emotionally. And then when I got the news, I was just kind of frozen, and I went home and I watched Crip Camp that night, and I just cried so
Yeah.
hard. I just
Yeah.
needed to do that, you know. But it was just like, you know, I know that she's this monumental figure in a powerhouse, but when you watch that movie, you're like, she's done so many things, you know, it almost gets lost of like all the incredible things she's done. So there was just a good reminder on that day to be like, Judy did this, and I forgot about all that. And I'm so lucky to have known her and, you know, been a friend. And so um, when she passed, you know, like Lachi said, we had talked about, you know, Lachi had talked about a song. And I remember we had a ramped meeting, I think, actually. And I think Lachi kind of threw the idea out there, and then she called, you know, me, and we talked about it. And then, you know, you as well, Gaelynn. Like I remember you and I on that call talking about it. And so it was just a really huge honor to be brought in to do that. And I felt like because of our, you know, our music connection, and just because she always would, you know, kind of connect me and Lachi all the time, it just felt very appropriate. And so really, really wanted to do that to honor her. And in terms of just like the experience, we flew to New York that one weekend in May. And like you said, it felt kind of daunting a little bit at the beginning, but then when we got in that room and started recording and doing the video and everything, and then you showed up, I was like, I knew it was going to be good because we had the pros in the house, like rocking it, Lachi and you from the start. I knew it was going to be great. But once things kind of started getting going, I was like, man, this is going to be really, really awesome. And I kind of saw all the ideas come to life. It just felt like it was going to be really, really special and spectacular. And sure enough, that's what it's been. But the experience was awesome. I mean, Lachi, Arthur, the whole crew, Day, everyone that worked on the set, you know, like everyone was just so hospitable and so professional, and we were efficient and everything. And so I just was like, this is going to be great. And turns out I was right, and it was great. So it was just special to do that for Judy, and it was special to be there with all of you. So
Uh,
that was my experience. And I got to meet you for the first time, Gaelynn. I got to work with
yeah.
Locke for the first time, got to work with you, which you both were on my list of great people to work with. So, you know, it was it just felt like I felt the love, you know. And I would love to hear, you know, what you thought as well, Gaelynn, about that.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, basically, here, I'm gonna spotlight. There's some talking in the background. I'm not sure. Is that from? Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. So I met Judy back in 2017 when I performed at the State Department. I do some stuff whenever it works to perform and speak on disability rights and disability justice. And so I went over to DC back then, and she was in the front row. And what's kind of funny is, like, Lachi and I talked about this once. We didn't actually know who she was until we saw Drunk History, which is a horrible way to find out about. I mean, it was a great segment, but like a really not great thing to realize that your history had been kind of like not taught to you. As a disabled person, I see, everybody shaking their heads because that's kind of how a lot of us. We either watched Crip Camp, we did the Drunk History thing. We like did not learn it in school. So somebody said that's Judy Heumann. She's in the front row. I was like, well, who is that? And they're like, well, she led the 504 sit-in. You should really learn more about her. So obviously, after I met her, I did this huge deep dive, which it was started with Drunk History, and then continued to like read about her. But the thing that was so cool about her is we had lunch after, and she made a point to like sit right by me, and she asked all sorts of questions about like what what am I doing with music, and how is it going with accessibility in the venues, and just really like getting to know me. And then through our conversation you start to realize, it sinks in, like, whoa, this person has done a lot of, it was just kind of like the realization was growing. And so she, we met that one time, and then she would keep in touch over the phone and email and kind of connect you with people if it made sense. Like I was on the Biden task force for disability because she's like, I'm going to email them right now. And so you can hear her typing the email while you're on the phone, and you're like, oh, okay. So she was that kind of a connector. I think, Lachi, did you coin the term connectrovert? Because that's totally what she was. She was like, she just loved to help, and it's like she had so many things going on, so it's like one thing she could do to take 5 minutes to connect you with someone that would like change the trajectory of your life. It was very cool the way she knew that the importance of people finding each other. And so I just was always very humbled and grateful whenever she would stop by. Like I did a ADA 30 show on this YouTube page, and she, like a week before, was like, are you doing anything for the ADA? And I was like, yeah, I have a special show. And she's like, well, I could come by. I mean, I didn't want to ask her, like, will you be, but she didn't. She did like a reading from her book, and it was just really cool to be like, oh, you're like engaged. And she was just so awesome. So when she passed, like James and Lachi, it was a huge shock and a big loss. But I remember that day, as I talked to like every disabled person that I knew, basically, like throughout the course of that day and that week, just being so grateful. Ooh, I don't want to get too choked up, but like that I don't think we would have all found each other without that like the work they did is the reason we are doing this. Like it's not like a one cause leads directly to this, but the work that they did, like that's why we can go to public schools. That's why we have access to like any building, like all this stuff that like I cannot imagine that we would have been able to create this kind of culture and community in a world that didn't have the basic stuff that they fought super hard for us. And that became really clear when she passed. It was like, oh, I know this person and this person, and in all these different cities and states and life walks and different disabilities and different generations. And I think it's like that's when like someone has really impacted the world, is when you can see their tendrils like just radiating out like the sun. I don't know, it was really humbling to like experience that. So I was really glad to be involved in the project, and I was super glad that Lachi's like, come, are you going to be in New York? Come on out and sing some harmonies and play some violin, and like just getting to finally work with Lachi. And like I hadn't met James yet, but like Lachi and I had been on Zooms for like 3 years and hadn't really gotten to hang out a whole lot. We had met a couple of times and had lunch, but like to actually do something creative was so wonderful. And like, you're like so good at the vocals, so the vocal coaching while I'm doing my recording was super fun. And like it was just a really good experience. And then knowing that that was just a small part of it, because then you see the ASL and the like, the design elements just like really shone through at the end. So then like Bald, of course, when that came out, and I think and like Judy's Instagram, I think it was, posted something about how Judy would have loved it, and I think it's true because Lachi, you were like the intro music on her podcast, and I was the outro. So like she really like loved supporting disabled musicians. And I think she really was. You said she loved Ramped, and like I just think it was cool to be able to have something for the world to hear afterwards. I mean, that's sort of my general takeaway. But man, she had an outsized
Yeah.
impact. I mean, man, ugh, Judy.
She really did. And part of it too was that she was doing the thankless work, right? Back in the 60s, 70s, doing the sit-ins.
Yeah.
No one was putting it on TV. No one
Nope.
was thanking her for it. She
Nope.
wasn't negotiating fees, right? To
Nope.
talk about this stuff. She
No.
was doing it all because it was necessary. But the beauty of that is that she was 75 years old when she passed away, yet she was starting podcasts, yet she was getting on the Daily Show. Like she took it from just disability rights to disability culture. I mean, she started infiltrating pop culture with the message, doing it very suavely. And it's interesting because we had a so before the video came out, we actually had a pre-screening with a bunch of leaders. And Gaelynn, we invited you, but you was too busy. It's okay.
Sorry.
But you know, the beauty of it is we had folks like Jim LeBret come through in tears, saying he loved the song. We had Haben going, "Oh my God, you did it right, you nailed it." And I was like, "Oh my God, we got the Haben approval."
Yeah, that's huge.
We got folks like Wawa, Mandy Harvey. Like we had real heavy hitters in there saying this is beautiful. And the thing that's really great about that is that Judy was cross-generational. You know, she was connecting folks from the previous generation when she was doing her work back then. And then she was connecting folks from the new generation while she was doing her work today. And the reason it was such a hard loss, because we kept saying like, well, who's going to be that connectrovert?
Yeah.
And yes, I did coin that term, and it is definitely all thanks to Judy.
Yeah.
Who's going to continue to connect those dots? And I think, and I'm hoping that those dots continue to connect through art. That's the whole thing that Lift Me Up is about. So I don't know, just so many things that you said really resonated and are really true about Judy. It's that connectivity. She wasn't here. One of the things that many sort of historically excluded communities go through are the silos, right? They're all working. It's difficult to have that like strong web because we're operating in a system that wasn't built for us to thrive, right? So it's difficult to build like a strong web and a strong voice. And so silos build up because of this sort of, you know, not to get too disability justice-y, but because of this like sort of, you know, patriarchal, you know, system that we're in terms of how things need to work. Different siloed communities within the broader community are pit against each other, and it's very difficult to get things off the ground. And it's not just true for the disability community, but it's true for a lot of, you know, historically excluded communities. The beauty of it is that Judy did not see that. She didn't care about any silos, about anything. She said, this person way over here and that person way over there look like they would be good together. Boom, meet. And so many beautiful relationships from then till now have been put together, brought up, and really lifted up, pun intended.
Yep.
Because of Judy. And it is really difficult not to get choked up. I mean, last night I was listening to the song, and I've listened to the song and I watched the video 87,000 times. Right?
Yep.
And I still get choked up when I listen to it because it's not just a good song. It's not just a good video. I don't even have to listen to the song or video. Just reading the story is historic. Like everyone involved is amazing. And it's just such a 3D, beautiful cultural statement. And it's all thanks to you.
Yeah. Well, so the last question I think for today about this song and about Judy's legacy and our work as artists as we continue, which, I mean, I think you're right, Lachi. Like, I think the arts is a really good place where we can keep connecting and not being, like, you know, Judy wasn't a gatekeeper, you know, she was a connector. I don't think she believed that the gates were, like, if you don't take the gates that seriously, you can cross all these, you know what I mean? And so that is something really cool about her, and we can be connecting people through our music, but then also behind the scenes, like how we do our careers and who we work with and who we uplift and stuff. So, yeah. But my question for you all, you know, Jenny as well, like, the thing that makes me so excited about Ramped, which, you know, Lachi founded and brought me in early on, and James, and now it's grown into this really amazing organization, is that disability culture is the thing that makes me excited. Not because I don't care about disability rights, because I obviously do, but because it just, how cool of a world would it be if disability wasn't seen as inherently negative, and if we could think of other adjectives besides sucky ones to describe being disabled, like instinctively, because we understand that it's just a different way of existing in the world, and that it's literally valuable because it is a different way of existing of the world, and the stuff that we make is valuable and contributes, and like there's just a lot behind this idea of disability culture that I think would give people permission to age better, to like accept their bodies changing in a more holistic way and like a healthier way that's more at peace. There's so many ripples that would come from disability being celebrated as a cultural phenomenon. Like I think it would really change the world, and so that's why I'm so excited about disability culture. But what do you see as like, where are we now? Where do you want to see disability culture? What do you think the role of music is, and what do you want people to know about, like, yeah, about the music that you make as a piece of disability culture? Because I think all of us are making work from that lens, you know. So how about Jenny? Do you want to answer first? Is that cool? Like, your thoughts on disability culture?
Totally, thank you. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you call me Jenny.
Is that bad?
No, that's my nickname.
Okay, good. Fifta.
I feel like disability culture is a generative aspect of society. We're creatives. We know how to problem solve. We think outside the box because we have to. And that's our superpower. And I'm all about embracing disability culture because I think it empowers those that are on the margins, those who feel blocked in by ableism, racism, classism, and I feel like the purpose of life is to help each other through it. And that's like such a profound aspect of disability culture. We're all help each other through our work, through our art, through our activism and advocacy, and we have to uplift each other's voices, and we do it as an art.
That's beautiful. Yeah, uplifting each other's voices as an art is a really great way to think about that. Thank you. That's really cool. Oh, yeah. James, any thoughts that you want to throw at us about disability culture?
Yeah. Once again, thank you all. Before I know we're wrapping up, and so just thanks for letting me be a part of the song, and thanks for hosting, Gaelynn. In terms of disability culture, it's almost like that existence. My existence is resistance thing. Like, I'm disabled, so I am, I am amplifying disability culture just because I'm living and breathing, you know. And so I think we all are. I think everyone on here, I've seen it countless times, like everyone be influential and stuff. So we're every day we're putting forth disability culture. I think we're all influencing on some level, you know. And so I think it's just really, really important. I think disability culture has always been influential. It just wasn't talked about or really shown in the mainstream. And so I think for me, I think that's kind of where it's at, is like trying to get it, you know, more mainstream. But like I said, I think music is a really, really big driver of culture and change and all that stuff. And so I think songs like "Lift Me Up," you know, they're gonna do the work just because they're out there, and you have disabled participants' voices creating. Then disability culture is going to be woven all through. And so I'm just really, really excited about that. You know, I feel like the conversation's there, and obviously it can go way further than it is, but I feel like we're starting to make some noise, and we're just going to get louder and louder as we go. But just really, really cool to be a part of this. And I am just happy and proud to be part of the movement and, you know, part of it. So disability culture is important. It's here to stay. It ain't going nowhere. So get used to it and start copying the cool kids who are disabled. So
Lachi, any closing thoughts? We have a little clip we're going to share at the end, but I want to see if you want to, as the founder of Ramped, I mean, that's a big deal, like what you're doing. So any thoughts on culture piece of it?
Yeah, I have 1,000,007 thoughts, but I'll kind of boil it down if I can, because we can't be here forever. We have shit to do.
Yes.
We're all booked, beautiful, and busy. So the first thing I want to do is firstly thank you, Gaelynn, for this platform, and thank everybody else for your time. Any of the folks that are watching now, folks who watch later, thank you so much for tuning in and giving us your time. The first thing I want to do is I want to really kind of thank the folks who came before us that are also just not Judy. At the end of the day, I'm getting a phone call from somebody who should be watching this instead. But, you know, there were other really great folks like Stacey P. Melbourne, who was a huge part of the disability justice movement, who passed away. There were so many other folks, Black and brown folks, who were part of the disability justice movement, who also passed away this year and in previous years, that we should also make sure that we look up and research, so that we don't just start finding out about Judy after she passed away. Let's also not start finding out about some of these other leaders after they pass away.
Yep.
Also want to give a huge shout out to a lot of the musical folks that have been doing things in the disability space before Ramp showed up. Folks like Leroy Moore, folks like Keith Jones. There have been folks like the Rising Phoenix movement. There have been a lot of folks that have been doing things within disability culture and trying to get it mainstream before this sort of next generation, have been doing it. One of the things that have been really beneficial for Ramped is that since really the pandemic, but a little before the pandemic, social media was really blowing up and allowing for creators and social media moguls and whatnot to really start putting disability on the map in our sort of more sideline and infiltration-y ways. And that's really helped disability become, jump more into the forefront. And so we've been able to use that wave through Ramped as this sort of next generation. But it is really important for us to kind of recognize the folks who did the thankless work before it became an influencer, pay gig, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to talk about, though, is that what disability culture is. I want to make sure that folks really understand it, because that term is kind of being tossed around. And, we at Ramped sort of have our own definition, right, which we've sculpted. But, there are things like disability rights, which is talking about the rights of people with disabilities, right? The right to be able to not be discriminated against, to get into buildings, to be able to go on the internet, to be able to sort of not just be fired or to get an education, right? This is disability rights. When we talk about disability justice, that is a different term than disability rights. And disability justice focuses on the fact that disability rights really only focused on the sort of straight cis white male version of disability. Disability justice starts to talk about intersectionality, starts to talk about collective liberation, starts to talk about pan disability, not just wheelchair using and things of that sort, and also non-visible, non-apparent disabilities, talks about collective activism cross community. And these are things that folks need to start looking at when they talk about disability justice and recognizing the difference between disability rights and disability justice. And then we have disability culture. Disability culture is really what we create and what we contribute because of the different minds and bodies that we come in. Right, Gaelynn? Yeah. Like the fact that you play your violin, which is made specifically for the way that you are, and that colors the music you create, right? That's disability culture. The perspectives that we have, the voices that we have, the words that we make, and it's colored by the fact that we exist in this historically excluded space in disability. And the reason why we really want to uplift disability culture is because the mainstream market society is afraid of disability and ashamed to talk about it, not because they fear death, not because they fear other things, but honestly, I believe it's because they're not doing anything about it, right? I believe it's because they recognize that if and when they become disabled, they didn't do anything about it, and nobody else is doing anything to make life more accessible for them, right? And it's kind of a guilt of like, you know what, I don't even want to think about it because it's just too big and it's too much, and I don't want to think about the fact that I'm not doing anything for it and I'll eventually be there. And so what we're trying to do with Lift Me Up is to showcase, like, you know what, I believe that if you went blind right now, you could be just as fly as I am. I think that you should have more self-esteem. Like, you're gonna be fine. Like, I'm fine, so you'll be fine. And that's what disability culture is saying. And I think the last thing I want to say, and I'm excited you're going to play this clip, is like just a shameless self-plug. Like, look at us, we're ramped. Like, we've got people touring, we've got award-winning artists, we have music professionals at some of the highest places in the music industry, and we are self-organizing. We are disability-led. We are all shades of colors. We are all shades of disability. And we've worked with the Grammys. We've worked with Netflix. I mean, and we are the ones doing it. I mean, not to throw shade at anybody. I love everyone, but it's not our caretakers. It's not our parents.
Nope.
It's us. Because guess what? When people turn 18 that are disabled, they're still disabled. And so they got to get out and actually do stuff. And that's what we're doing. We're disabled professionals in the music industry, and we ourselves are making that change. And we're not asking permission. We're just doing it. And we're asking you to come along with us.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you. And thanks for that educational moment too, because I do think in the field, sometimes you forget that like those terms are not taught anywhere, right? So like justice, culture, rights, different things, and we don't learn it in school. And so anyone who's watching this video, I hope that makes sense. I'm sure it does, because Lachi is a genius at explaining things. And then just to continue learning about it and to not be afraid, whether it's out of guilt or it is like a wanting to deny that it could happen to you, like whatever it is, it's that it's not something to be afraid of, it's something to celebrate. And so thank you for saying all that. So I'm going to try, hopefully successfully, sharing this clip. This is Lachi performing Lift It Up in a really gorgeous gown. Who made that gown? That is like literally the best.
Thank you for asking. That gown was made by Chioleka Fashion School out of Peru. They actually made that gown custom made for me when we went down to go perform some shows in Peru.
Oh my goodness.
Shout out to Chioleka.
I mean, it's gorgeous. So so then this is the live version. If you haven't heard Lift Me Up on YouTube or Spotify, please go listen to it after this. The video is phenomenal. So is the song. Just put it on, share it.
Gaelynn will have a link in the description.
Oh yes, I actually. No, I will. Don't worry. I had it in the first one. I've got to I got to reboot now that we had to start on this. Okay, thank you so much, all of you, for being here and for promoting and amplifying and making disability culture. And here is Lachi performing. Okay, so that's, oh, so beautiful, eh? We thank you. Oh, well, thank you for being here. See you soon. Thank you, and take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.